Welcome to The Vinyl Guide, the podcast for record collectors and music nerds. Here's your host, the biggest record nerd of them all, Nate Goyer.
Well, hey everyone, it's Nate. Welcome to episode 510 of The Vinyl Guide, the podcast for record collectors and music nerds. And ladies and gentlemen, today we have with us, very stoked on this one, music historian and record maniac, Mr. Matt Pinfield. You guys know Matt. Matt, he's such a lovely guy, and it'll come as no surprise that he's also a record collector, which we thoroughly talk about today. You may not know this, though. Matt had a stroke earlier this year. He was in a coma for several months and has made a tremendous recovery. And you'll hear what energy this guy has. He's like shot out of a cannon in the morning. This interview was conducted at like 8 a.m. his time. He's in a room in Las Vegas where he's doing tours of the Punk Rock Museum this weekend, August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. If you're anywhere near Las Vegas, make sure to catch one of his tours. You'll walk away, I'm sure, with a full education and be fully entertained the whole way through. Now, aside from Matt's tours on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, he's doing a show on Friday night with Chuck Roca and That Summer. And again, that's at the Punk Rock Museum. On Saturday, August 2nd, there will be a Home Street Home listening party hosted by none other than Fat Mike. So again, that's Saturday night, 8 p.m. at the Punk Rock Museum. And of course, Sunday, August 3rd, again, we'll have more Matt Pinfield guided tours, but it's also a free admission day to Nevada residents. That's Sunday, August 3rd. You could rock up to the Punk Rock Museum, and Nevada residents will get in free. So it's a big weekend at the Punk Rock Museum, and Matt Pinfield will be leading the charge. Today, Matt and I talk all about his record collection. We hear some music record collecting and punk rock stories. We discuss his health, the recovery journey, and lots more. And man, oh man, Matt has just tons of energy and stories, so strap in for this one. It's such a fun discussion, and I think everyone will enjoy hearing from Matt. He's had such an incredible life so far. In fact, he's got a book that came out a few years ago, My Insane Improbable Rock Life, which you could obtain from bookstores anywhere in the world. Oh, and also, if you enjoy this podcast, you're welcome to join our Patreon presence at patreon.com/vinylguide. You could buy me a burrito and a beer each month and help keep this show going. Again, patreon.com/vinylguide. Alrighty, and with that, let's get on the horn with Mr. Matt Pinfield at the Punk Rock Museum in Viva Las Vegas. You're well fed. You got your gym time in already.
Omelet house.
Okay. Now is the meal plan different post stroke now? Like what do you get?
Well, I don't know. To be honest with you, man, after not eating in the hospital, after not having any solid food for 2 months in January and February, some of my friends brought me meals in the hospital. So the second hospital, I was in another month for a relocation and rehabilitation hospital. Called the California Rehabilitation Institute. And speaking of punk rock, it was great because, friends would bring me food, like Mike Ness from Social D. He came in and brought me Thai food, and we hung out, talked for like 3 hours, So my friends were coming around and visiting me. I didn't remember any of the first 2 months. Anything other than having the stroke. I was at my friend John Tempesta's from is now the drummer in the Cult, used to be in White Zombie, of course. And I said, dude, I don't feel good. And it was really weird. And then all of a sudden, and then I just like went down, and next thing you know, they're eventually calling the EMS, and I remember getting an EMS truck, and that was it. And then 2 months later, I'm conscious, but you got to remember that I had not only a stroke, but I had MRSA pneumonia, which kills 85% of the people that contract it. So they told my daughters that I was going to die. I mean, it was touch and go. I didn't know any of this. You know what I mean? Any of it. But look, I'm here today. I'm doing tours of the Punk Rock Museum all weekend. I'm very grateful. I lost the feeling on my right side of my body, and a lot of parts of it are still numb. But I mean, I'm walking. I'm going to the gym. I'm working out. I'm hiking with a cane. Yes, I admit. I don't take the cane everywhere, but I mean, I use it to hike just as a safety thing. In case I come on some like there's some weird hole and ditch in Griffith Park going up the mountain. But I mean, I'm just fighting through it, and it's really important. You got to have that spirit.
Look, I got to tell you, I pop up on Instagram. I see you on there almost every day. You get the picture of yourself. You're smiling. You're in the gym, and you happy. Just smiling to be alive makes me happy. And I'm so glad you're back on your hind legs, man.
Yeah, thank you, Nate. I appreciate it because it was one of those situations. Just like I think the most horrifying thing was that my daughters and my friends and the people I love did not think I was going to live. And they were told that. I mean, but I think one of the greatest stories is that one of my friends was in the hospital and he came in and said he's probably never going to walk again. He's never going to talk again. His radio career is over, which is not, obviously I'm back on the air, but also, just all these other things that need 24-hour care. And one of my friends looked at one of the other friends and went, they don't know Matt Pinfield. If he's alive, he'll be talking. So I thought that was funny. I heard all this, of course, like after waking up. But you can imagine how strange it was to wake up after a stroke and go, what's been happening for the last 2 months? So, and in a coma? It's like coming out of the coma. But I'm here. Yeah. The fighting spirit hasn't left me. So, I'm grateful.
Not the first time you defied the odds. In your book, you talk about getting with the tumor in the head, right?
Yeah, that was it. Like I had the aneurysm when I was a teenager. You know what I mean? Like 15. And it was really wild because I remember I mentioned in the book, punk rock hadn't happened yet, but I had a shaved head because I had, and I was like, everybody else had long hair. You know what I mean? Like it was interesting because it was the same summer that on my birthday in May, I bought the first Ramones album on my birthday that came out like weeks before. Mm-hmm. But like the whole punk thing didn't happen for a little while. Like it took months before the first Pistol singles were coming out and everything else. And I fell in love with it immediately, but I just loved rock and roll and just love music, soul music, everything. I mean, I was, that I was beating the odds as well. And, they told my parents that it's so interesting that both times the aneurysm and then this most recent stroke, the odds were 15% to live. Is pretty nuts. And then getting hit by the car, like previously 7 years, and then that was the other thing. They told me in the EMS truck there, they're like, "You're an absolute miracle. Most people would think your hood would not have survived." So I've beaten the odds a few times now, at least. I'm also, as a sober guy, I probably beat the odds more than that, as I certainly, I lived dangerously on and off for a very long time. So, but I'm very grateful. And, what can you do?
You ever think maybe you're a superhero? Maybe.
No, I never give that thought. People will say to me, he's indestructible. I'm like, yeah, I don't believe that. And, I mean, it sounds great as a story, but man, it is, mortality is real. And very, very sad, like I said, I'm grateful to have survived all these crazy things over the years. And most recently this stroke. And slowly I'm, through acupuncture and other stuff and tons of exercise and as much physical therapy as I can get. I am slowly improving. Like one of the guys who does acupuncture on me was a drummer for a while on Shelter, speaking of punk bands. Connor, he played with them for a bit. But he's my acupuncturist. So it all ties back to rock and roll and punk rock and music. It's like no matter what you do.
So let's talk about, because you're at the Punk Rock Museum this weekend, and
yes.
And I love the Punk Rock Museum, and I always so look forward to going to Las Vegas and spending time there. What is your favorite artifact in the Punk Rock Museum?
Oh my God! There so much of it is really incredible to me. Because I mean, it sounds crazy like to say this, but I think sometimes when obviously I'm such a lover of the old punk rock stuff, but I think, it's a crazy, do I have a favorite is kind of hard to say. But, I love the video of the Germs playing. That's like one of my favorite things. Because when I watched the Germs thing, I was like, that is so amazing. And that they were able to secure that footage that ended up not in the film. That is really a big one for me. I love the whole history. I mean, even as far, as much as like even the Johnny Thunders, the Key to His Hotel, which is tragic, because I love the Doll. I love the Heartbreakers. I love both Heartbreakers, Tom Petty and Heartbreakers, and the other Heartbreakers, but I like, like there are just so many things in there, and I think about my friendships with a lot of these people or that I've gotten interviewed, whether it's, the great interviews I've done with Iggy and, I was hosting this punk rock, I was hosting tribute to Wayne Kramer that the guys at Road Recovery were doing in New York City years ago. And I remember being on stage. I was hosting that night, me and my co-host, Leslie Friend, we were hosting my morning show in New York. But I was up over there hosting, and I was involved with doing a lot of charity stuff for Road Recovery. I remember riding like 50 miles on a bicycle around the boroughs of New York City to raise money. But one of the first big shows they put together and charity things was for Wayne Kramer. And Wayne, it was amazing because, Wayne, what did he want to do when they were like, what can we do to honor you? He goes, I want to do a concert in a prison. So it was Sing Sing Prison. And it was, Handsome Dick Manitoba. And it was Tom Morello, Jerry Cantrell, all those guys. But it was, and Don was, but, and of course, Wayne. And we went up there and, we did a thing for nonviolent drug offenders in Sing Sing Prison. And it was amazing, all the guys rolling up in this short bus. They didn't do that show. But it was crazy because speaking of Iggy, that night when Iggy was playing, like the band, the guys on stage, Morello's on stage, all these guys at the Best Buy Theater in New York City, and I'm on stage, and Iggy runs out and like knocks the microphone out of my hand in total Iggy punk rock style. And he goes, and then he picks it up, and he's like, because I was on the mic that the singers were using, and it was unbelievable. I'll never forget it. But Iggy's always been great to me. I mean, I've done some really funny stuff with him on the radio and over the years. So yeah, there's so many artifacts there, and I mentioned Mike Ness from Social D, coming and spending time with me in the hospital. And, I got a lot of gratitude for all the experiences that I've had, over the years. Interviewed so many artists. It's just a beautiful thing, and like, you look back and speaking of punk rock, like, when I remember like really hedging to have Descendants and Rancid and people like that on 120 Minutes on MTV when I ended up being the host, taking over. I filled in, back in, in 93 with Depeche Mode. And then, then of course, the show ended up going, they had Lewis do it for a while, but Lewis didn't want to. He wanted me to do it. Like there were artists doing it after Dave Kendall had exited. And then, Lewis kept saying that when I got hired to manage music programming at MTV and help program the channel, he was like, Matt should be doing this show, man. I don't want to do this show. So he was like, which was a really kind thing of Lewis to do. He was totally in that way the punk rock thing that he was not about his ego at all. So I thought that was cool.
Was it tough to get acts on MTV that you were passionate about, but may not have been kind of top of mind for a lot of people? Like Descendants are probably a good example of that.
No, it wasn't that hard because there were other people in the music department like Kurt Stefik at the time and Lewis and others. And, we fought for things, so you would go in, we'd do a thing we'd watch every video that was submitted on a Monday, and then Tuesday decide what to add. We'd kind of like sit there. It was wild in the conference room, but I saw so many iconic videos come through there. But I was, especially because of my history with alternative music and punk rock and just rock in general. I mean, I love a lot of different music, obviously. Even soul, I'm a big soul music guy too, like I love. So it was exciting to have the actual influence to be one of the voices for music that I thought deserved a bigger voice and a bigger look. And that was the most exciting thing. Like the beauty of that, of getting hired at MTV to cut programming after programming, an alternative commercial station. Back when there were only like 13 alternative commercial stations in the US, at that period of time, there were like 13 of us. There was like DRE in Long Island, which was LIR originally, and K Rock and 998X, like stations that were in like California and Live 105 in San Francisco. So there were stations all over, but my background started in college radio at Rutgers, you know what I mean? And then I would do summers, I would fill in at the Princeton radio station too. And there was a great venue there called City Gardens in Trenton, New Jersey, but there were also a Fastlane in Asbury Park. And then I would go to CBGB's and I would go to shows in New York and sometimes Philly, but there was enough going on in Jersey where I lived and, where I grew up, for a guy born in Athens, Georgia, but I really grew up in Jersey because my mom and dad were from Jersey. My dad just happened to be at University of Georgia after fighting, in the Korean War.
Mm-hmm.
He, on the GI Bill, because he was such a smart dude, he went there and studied physics, became a physics teacher. They wanted him to continue on his education, but he had a family of 3 kids, and so that was what it was about. And
right, of course.
But that's my Athens connection to the B-52s and R.E.M. and Love Tractor and all these other bands, So it's kind of crazy.
You got so many kind of interconnections. They have 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. There's probably like 3 degrees of Matt Pinfield.
You know what? You're gonna laugh, Nate, because Leslie Fran, my co-host of my morning show in New York City, sat there with me, her, and Kevin Bacon and said, "Kevin, there may be 6 degrees with you, but there's 2 degrees with Matt." And I thought it was funny. Kevin goes, "I think you're right." He goes, "Yeah, you either know Matt, either you know Matt Pinfield, you know somebody who knows Matt Pinfield." Yeah. And that was the story. And Kevin went with it. He was so funny, but he was always trying to stump me, questions about like everything from Zeppelin to whatever, Beatles, And that was funny.
So you spent time with Beatles, you spent time with Rolling Stones, Iggy,
yeah.
Pretty much everyone. Is there anyone on the list that you just have never been able to spend time with? Kind of a big...
Neil Young is the one. I mean, I'm friends with Stephen Stills, but I was like, thought it'd be cool to sit down with Neil. And I haven't yet, you know what I mean? So, and it's that's one of the ones. And of course, all the people that have passed away. Like I always think about it. Well, who would I mean, I would have loved to have done everybody from Phil Lynott to Thin Lizzy to, you know what I mean, to Keith Moon. I used to make
the possibles. You want the possibles, yeah. So Neil Young's your possible.
Neil Young is my possible that I would really like to interview at some point. I've been very blessed. Like I said, Stones, Townsend, Ray Davies of the Kinks. Like all these, and then everybody. In between. I mean. I did like one of the last big interviews with Les Paul that they cut up for that Les Paul tribute that I did and it was great to sit there with Les Paul. It was unbelievable. It was amazing. And I remember going to see Les Paul perform at the Hotel Iroquois at the Empire Hotel with like Jason Newsted and James Hetfield. And we were like, they go, "We're in town. Did you want to go see Les Paul?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah." So we go. And we go see Les Paul. And then we're sitting there. I remember Jason got up and hung with him. And James was like, "Night off," because James was, he didn't want to actually go up on stage. He didn't want to take the spotlight off Les, but Les was inviting people up. So
yeah,
but it was like, I feel so blessed I got to interview, but your possibles, Neil Young is definitely still with us, which is great,
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I feel very, very blessed with all the people that I've gotten to interview and so many of my heroes, and because I love so many eras of music.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that's really amazing for me. And whenever I meet somebody, it could be a guy who had a one-hit wonder in the 70s that might end up being your Uber driver one day. You're like, and the guy would say, like, "I used to be in music." And I'm like, "Yeah, what made you?" He goes, "You probably wouldn't know it." I go, "Try me." You know what I mean? I remember my driver, one of my Uber drivers was a guy in a Sanford Townsend band who had like this 70s, like kind of like yacht. They would probably consider it yacht rock now, but "Smoke from a Distant Fire." And he was my Uber driver. I was like, "Dude, that's a great song. It's a great pop song." You know what I mean? So it was just, I consider it a beautiful gift. I mean, I think, and I know you enjoy doing this too, Nate, because my love for music, as a kid, I couldn't get enough music. I couldn't own enough records. I came from a working class family. My father was a school teacher. My mother had worked many years in her life, but we were, back when you could be a teacher and you could have a family, five. You know what I mean? My brother, sister, and I. But I mean, if I wanted records, I had to mow lawns, deliver papers, shovel snow. That's what my deal was. And the reason I fell in love with radio was I was like, I'm going to be on the radio one day when I was a little kid. I already knew what I wanted to do. There was no MTV when I started. There was, in America, there was, Don Kirshner's rock concert and, Midnight Special and, things like that. And, people lip syncing on American Bandstand. There was no, which was why I was so fascinated with Top of the Pops, and I read about it, the British show, which was a weekly show. Can you imagine? Even if they were just doing vocals, even only the vocals were live or whatever the band was playing, that would be see Bowie on there, Roxy Music, I mean, you just think about, and even not back to the 60s, but they're just, which that's the sad thing, is that they lost and erased all those Top of the Pops. There were so many in the 60s. Only a few of them survived. And even the early 70s stuff, like a lot of that stuff is missing. You'll see some videos of Bowie and Slade and T-Rex and things like that I love. But yeah, a lot of that stuff, they taped over. They didn't think it was going to matter because, to them, pop music was disposable. It was the BBC. It's so weird.
And they had good taste. Like Top of the Pops was actually quite good. When you compare
it was awesome.
I grew up in the States and we had Solid Gold, which was kind of
yeah, exactly. So
I'd rather do Soul Train than Solid Gold any day.
Oh, me too. I love Soul Train. That's why when Bowie was on there for the first time, with like Fame and Young Americans and that stuff. But I loved, I wanted to see the Main Ingredient and the OJs and all that stuff. I loved Harold Melvin and the Blue Nuts doing The Love I Lost.
That whole Philly sound is
that
just...
Philly, Gamble Huff. I love that stuff. And what's so crazy is the earliest example of that was a single, a 45 that was so important in my life was the Soul Survivors Expressway to Your Heart, which is was a Gamble and Huff production. You know what I mean? Even though these guys were I think they were all white dudes, maybe one Spanish guy in the band. Like they were doing Blue Eyed Soul, and there was that Philly thing, which was in the water. So obviously the Hall & Oates, right? But it was, I loved Gamble Huff. I mean, God, those records are so great. And I love 70s soul stuff. Like like I said, whether it was Just Don't Want to Be Lonely by the Main Ingredient to there's so many. I mean, Bobby Blue Bland, Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City. These songs that stuff is phenomenal. I just love those records.
Bobby Womack.
Bobby Womack was unreal with the Valentinos and solo. Nobody wants you when you're down and out. Like all that stuff. Oh my God! Bobby Womack, man, it's cool. So I met Bobby Womack. So the great thing was, when we were doing the morning show in New York City, there was a station that existed there. My favorite station before that was a punk new wave that also played the rock of the time. So it was still playing Fleetwood Mac and the Eagles and things like that in '77 and Steely Dan. But then it was also playing, like the Police and Joe Jackson and Elvis Costello and all that stuff. It was PIX FM. And years later, when things were digital, I realized that station, I was on that signal, 101.9. First, and it was a smooth jazz station. Then it flipped formats. I ended up getting hired to do the morning show 2008 to 2011 with this amazing woman, Leslie Fram, was one of my close, dearest friends, who was the PD. But I remember during those periods and stuff, and I had a relationship from my radio station on the Jersey Shore, HDG, with Damon Albarn from Blur. So he asked me if I wanted to introduce the Gorillas on stage at Madison Square Garden. So you got to remember, two of my other heroes who I've already hung with are backstage and getting ready to go on with him. Paul Simonon and Mick Jones of The Clash and Bobby Womack. And that's the backstage scene. You know what I mean? With Damon Albarn. And I was like, good. And I said to Damon, I go, Damon, man, thanks for inviting me to introduce you guys on stage tonight. It's Madison Square Garden, where I was like the spec, and I always had the worst seats as a kid growing up to see Aerosmith with Ted Nugent or see Bad Company or Jethro Tull. You know what I mean? Like when you're a kid. or Bowie, you know what I mean? And they're like, and then all of a sudden, you know, that's the beautiful thing. You find yourself on a stage like that, and it's just crazy looking back, you know. And but being back there with fucking Bobby Womack, man, it was so cool. Just going up to him and talking to him about the Valentinos, like it's all over now. What a song, right?
Yeah.
You know, Stone's like first big hit in America, right? So it's like, you know, it's I just I mean, it's just the crosses of all those different styles of music, and I love those eras. You know, I know that we talk about vinyl here,
Yeah.
and you know, Nate, I'm like a big 7-inch collector too. You know, I have tons of albums and 12-inch singles because I spun in nightclubs. Like that's how I supported myself in this place called the Melody in New Brunswick, New Jersey. But I spun also at a place called Charlie's Uncle before that. You know, in the early 80s, it was like New Wave Night with Matt Pinfield. And the other entertainment was Richie Zambora and Friends. So Richie Zambora was the other nights before he joined Bon Jovi. And then it's New Wave Night with Matt Pinfield. And I'd be spinning records. I remember the first time I had to spin records on a stage, I was like, I got to stand on that fucking stage? Are you kidding me? I was like terrified. Like, I got to stand on stage in front of those turntables. And we brought our own equipment, right? But at PA, like I worked with like some friends, but and because I really at that point, like I said, I'm still working class, even though I like was working, you know, like at a convenience store or I worked at a strip club spinning records, which is finest hotel that Metallica bands used to stay at because it was like Megaforce Records started in a flea market across the street in East Brunswick, New Jersey, at a Route 18 flea market. And so this strip club was across the street, and there was a hotel connected to it, the Hosteways. And I remember, and the strip club was, but it was like, wait a minute, I can get paid to play records instead of working at that fucking convenience store? I'm taking this fucking job. $8 an hour? Holy shit. Like, that was like, you know, and I'm talking about like the beginning of the 80s, you know what I mean? Like, so I just, you know, did that, and then eventually did that place, Charlie's Uncle, which was great. And it was me and Richie Zambora were the entertainment. You know, it's like so crazy. And then, the next thing is, you know, then I'm starting to do like clubs like this place called the Melody, which was legendary in New Brunswick, New Jersey, as part of Rutgers. And like the clientele was like, because we're the same, James Gandolfini and Callista Flockhart from like Ally McBeal and Jane Krakowski from 30 Rock.
Oh, okay.
And Mario Batali. And all these people were like the regulars when I DJ. So it's like, because they were all part of this like Mason Gross School of the Arts, which, by the way, I heard is closing down, which is, whenever I hear of anything like that happening with the arts, it's already bad enough that there's not music programs in schools. Pisses me off.
So you have like Tony Soprano coming up. Hey, Matt, can you play some Flock of Seagulls?
Like, dude, that's what it was. And, you know, like, and I would also, like, I mean, I played in those clubs and I played all the, like, newer, like, new wave and, alternative, whatever you want to call it. But I also mixed that with a lot of 70s, like, fucking glam. Like Lou Reed, T-Rex, right. Bowie, Roxy, you know, shit like that. You know, I loved, because I was just always into that stuff anyway. But I loved it, you know. I'm just such a big music fan. Because
are you friends with Don Bowles?
Well, you know what? His birthday is, I don't know if I missed it already, but his girlfriend just reached out to me, Dawn. I know her very well. And Dawn. So I love Dawn, and I love Dawn, and I love Dawn. Dawn and I are very good friends. So, yeah, and I was like, Dawn, because Dawn is like, he spins like total glam, and he'll go junk shop glam, which is, so he's got a lot of great records, and we both love that early glam stuff. And he's a cool dude. And he and I have had those conversations where we go deep talking about those records. And man, I love him for that. You know, obviously a huge Germs fan anyway, right?
Of course.
And, you know, friends with Pat Smear still. You know, I love Pat. But yeah, Don, like he loves that 70s glam. Like he just, like, I love that he goes deep and spins that stuff on a regular basis.
Oh,
but I got invited to his birthday, but I think it's actually might have been last night or tonight. I can't remember what day it was, but it's just been, my life's been, as you can imagine, just getting ready to come here to Punk Rock Museum to do the tours. I had to like rebank all my radio shows and all my other stuff. So I was working nonstop until I left. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
You know, you and I, we met through David and Alex over at Record Safari.
Yeah. Let me tell you how much I love him. You know, like I love Alex from Record Safari and Chris and everybody who works there. There's the kindest, I just love, and there's a lot of great people out there in the record collecting business and at great record stores. I just love its kindred spirits, man. It always is. And I think that's just one of the most beautiful things, for me. It's, and I never stop looking for records. I'm going, I am one block from a record store right here. I'm going to walk to when you and I are done. And I go through their singles.
Moondog?
No, this one is, what's it called? It's one block away from the Punk Rock Museum. He's got like amazing amount of singles in there. I found a single of Nothing to Lose by Kiss in there, it was crazy. But like I've hundreds of things, but I have like a shitload of singles. Like I have thousands of singles at home and I have albums and 12 inches too. But when I moved to San Francisco and I was doing a morning show on KFOG, and I'm still on the radio there on the Bone, like my syndicated classic rock show. But it's like one day, me and my girlfriend at the time, we're driving like to check out antique places. And this is funny because I always ask Mike Ness, because is always collecting the antiques and stuff. We found out we like knew the same guy in Harrisburg who used to have this place that was like we were talking about it in the hospital while I was there recovering from my stroke. And I'm like, Mike, man, you ever go to that place? Like, yeah. So we're but me and my girlfriend at the time, I lived in Paul Kantner's old apartment from Jefferson Airplane. He lived in his apartment on a corner of Grant and Vallejo in San Francisco in North Beach. And I found out I could rent it from a guy who was there, who was this cool, legendary guy, in the Italian neighborhood. That's all I can really say with here about that. But I love this guy. And he loved me because I'm so Jersey. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like an Irish, English, Italian guy from Jersey. You know what I mean? Like, it's so funny. Like I remember I remember thinking I fucked up my first interview at MTV because I'm talking with my hands. Like, so fucking Jersey. But I was laughing. And so Northeast. But I just like looking back on that. So I had that apartment, and this is where I started getting into 45s again. I went with my girlfriend and I drove up to a town called Santa Rosa, which I know you know from California. And I went in this antique shop, and they had a 1956 turntable. It was an orthophonic RCA turntable. And what was so fascinating to me was, I'm like, wait a minute. Well, that had to be right around the time that Elvis put out his first single on RCA. You know what I mean? Obviously. You know what I mean? Like, Heartbreak Hotel and everything from there in, post Sun. And sure enough, she put the date under it. She wrote it in beautiful cursive writing somewhere under this thing. And it was a piece of furniture. So it had 4 legs. It was one of those with the top that flipped up. And me and my girlfriend put it in our vehicle, and I bought it.
Yeah.
And it still played. And there was only one record in the antique shop. It was like Eat a Peach by the Allman Brothers. I'm like, I'll put on Ain't Wasting Time No More right now and see how it sounds. And so, which is the song I love, right? So I was like, I ended up like buying this thing and taking it back to Paul Kantner's old apartment. And the funny thing about the Paul Kantner old apartment, I have to tell you this too, is so I was moving from another apartment, and my girlfriend at the time was moving from Phoenix there, right? Even though she was from Southern California, she brought the dog, who ended up being our little dog, and I was like, you know what? I was renting another apartment from this guy because he owned a lot of real estate in the area, and I went down to one of the bars and restaurants he owned. I said, Giovanni, listen, I don't want you to hear from the neighbors that there's a dog there, because the dog's in new surroundings, it's barking a little bit. And I go, yeah. He goes, well, how big's the dog, man? I go, oh, it's a little thing, it's a little. And he goes, you just want a bigger place. I'm like, well, what do you suggest? He goes, how about Paul Kantner's old apartment? I looked at him and went, I'll take it. Like sight unseen. There's a rock and roll history, right? Guy from Jefferson Airplane. I'm gonna So I go there. I take the apartment like sight unseen. There's like a plaque next to in the building on Vallejo Street. It's across from that little coffee shop in San Francisco that, where Francis Ford Coppola wrote the screenplay for The Godfather.
Okay.
Cafe Trieste. And so I go in there. This is the funniest story of all. Like I just, speaking of like in that neighborhood buying 45s, and I So I got that thing, I finally bring it back there and set it up. This is so go back a couple, about a month or two. And when I first go into this apartment, I go into the bathroom and I turn on the shower. And all of a sudden it starts shooting lasers out of the shower head. I'm like, what is this? And sure enough, Paul Kantner had a psychedelic shower head that shot what was water powered, that was shooting colored lasers into the shower. And I'm like, this is perfect. You know what I mean? It's like, this is, it could have been the same in Jerry Garcia's house. I don't know. I thought it was hilarious. And I just so I thought it was the greatest thing in the world, videotaped it, posted it. This is like quite a few years ago. But that was like, there were even record stores in that neighborhood of North Beach where in the basement, I would go down there and like finger through, because you know how damp things get in. It's also San Francisco because it's like cold. So I would go down there and spend as much time going through records until my hands couldn't take it anymore. You know what I mean? Just trying to go through these records. And man, I just, I found some really cool stuff. And then I started like a different collection because a lot of my stuff was still, because, when I moved to San Francisco to do the morning show, I didn't know where I was going to be living. I bought new furniture and stuff, and I put a lot of stuff in storage in Jersey where a lot of my music and records were. So I only had a few things that came out with me. So I kind of started a new collection there of mostly 45s and some albums too. And then eventually got my stuff out, was shipping it,
Right.
But I still have a storage unit in Jersey that has a lot of records in it.
Do you look for like rarities and things like that? I mean, when you go to
record shops,
yeah.
It's kind of crazy. Like, if you're looking for, like I do, and it's like, but I have a really interesting way of looking at things. I love to listen to the vinyl that I buy. Like, I'm into the records. So I love to hear the sound of the vinyl, and I love to hear the records, and there's magic in those grooves. And, I know, I'm sure people have said this to you many times, and you probably feel exactly the same way I do. But I still look for cool things. I look for things I don't have and don't know too, because I get excited about that. But my 45 collection is insane. That started in San Francisco because of that turntable. And of course, I have a different DJ rig now in my house that has 2 turntables. But it's my apartment. But it's it's still like it's big enough that I can put a rig in there.
Right.
So, but in my home, man, I've got so many boxes of 45s there, and I've gotten stuff from all over. Like I'll go, oh wow, The Who, I Can't Reach You on a 45 only in Australia, and I would order, I'd find it. You know what I mean? Something from The Who Sellout. But I just love or I get like the Gun Club Sex Beat on a 7-inch on Beggars. You know what I mean? Like one of the greatest.
Are they organized in a way to where it's like if you need to find something really quick?
They were. And boy, I wish I had Henry's patience. Oh. Henry's amazing. I love the way, you know what it is? And for a while it was, and now what's happened is because I end up going out and spinning at these gigs, sometimes, so I bought a ton of these 45 boxes, but some of the album, like some parts of it are super organized, and others, it's like when I was spinning here, I'm spinning at like the Tiki Bar tomorrow night here in Vegas from 9 to 12 with a very dear friend of mine from Rutgers, who I went to school with, who lives here, and I'm going to play all 45s. But it's. I went through the collection. So, I'm like, well, you know what? This place is called Tiki Bar. It's something retro about it. I'll bring my 7-inch British single, Johnny Kidd and the Pirates, shaking all over. Or the original Brand New Cadillac by, Vince, by Vince Taylor, And I'll play like some other cool old punk stuff. But there's quite a bit of it that's organized. But there's also another, and I just don't stop buying records.
I know that sickness. I know it.
I mean, it's an illness, but I love it. I mean, like, you know what? It's like I've had a lot worse habits in my life that I've curtailed. So, you know what I mean? As a guy in recovery, right? But I mean, I still love going record shopping so much. I love going and finding something. I sometimes would buy stuff just because it has an interesting title. Like it could be like the work. And and just something that brings massive amounts of laughter to my face, or brings a smile to my face. I'm like, I need to hear what this sounds like. The title's unbelievable. It's so ridiculous. I need to hear this. Or it's bizarre, or it's of its time. You know what I mean, right?
Totally. I'll do that. In fact, I just bought a single, and this is why I love punk records, because a lot of times they'll just have these funny covers. These funny
they're the best ever.
And it's just
punk singles are so great.
I can't leave those behind, and a lot of them are like $5-10. It's like I'm so curious as to what this sounds like.
That's it too. Yeah, it's great. There's so much great punk rock stuff over the years, and I would say something bad that happened. It was very upsetting to me recently, and I blame somebody in the U.S. mail system stole a whole box of my 45s. I had been in my storage unit, found a bunch and a lot of rare things in there. And I shipped 2 boxes to myself. One of them had been sliced open. They put some bullshit fucking sticker over at the U.S. Postal Service that said, "We care." I'm like, "You care? You cared to steal 100 of my 45s out of that box."
That sucks.
I was really pissed off, to be honest with you. I was saying things that are pretty, like, angry. But
yeah,
I just, but and. Because a lot of things are irreplaceable, and they're so rare now. You know what I mean? But
do you have any holy grails? Something that has eluded you for years, you'd love to be able to find?
I'd have to think about it. Like there was weird little punk records, like a 12-inch single by a band called Panic Squad from New York City. Had this song called Island that I loved. It was a 4-song EP. That I bought at Bleecker Bob's, which was like, the punk rock store in the beginning. I bought so many things there, like this great single by the Testers, which I get to play on the radio in Los Angeles. Because, I'm on KLOS, the rock station, but I'm also on KCSN, the public station, meaning the car quarter on there. I get to play whatever, as long as there's no 4-letter words in it and it's not breaking FCC regulations. But they leave me alone, but I'll play new things that are on the playlist that they have of new artists, because I always believe in giving people a shot. And I want to promote new young artists and new people, young or old. But I put that Testers record on, and one of my friends here who's performing at the Punk Rock Museum tonight, Chuck Roca, and he was like, heard it on the air one day, and then some of my other friends were like, because I can listen to my show, because sometimes I track it at home and tape it. Sometimes it's live. And but I played this punk rock single by the Testers, which I love. This guy, Sonny Vincent, he was part of that scene, Max, Kansas City, and CB's.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember John DeSalvo from that band Tough Darts, who Robert Gordon was the singer in originally. He used to work at Bleecker Bob's. And all the new imports and punk records and the new wave stuff that came over from the UK and the ska records and everything, I bought there. And even reggae stuff,
mm-hmm.
some Joe Gibbs stuff, and the professionals, and stuff produced by, just a ton of the reggae stuff it was just really cool stuff, but I still love buying records and I'd like to refine that record. Those are some of the things I just, because we're here talking about it, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, I'll have to find that Panic Squad 12-inch again. It was some New York band, you know what I mean? But that was the fun of it, and it's just, it's crazy, but again, like you, I if a cover blows me away, we go crazy. I buy it, and then I send pictures of it to my friends. If it's like what you just did, I'm just crazy records, punk, soul, everything, you know what I mean? So it's like, I'm going to keep on buying records. I'm going to go today, because I brought one box, I have a lot of those old 45 boxes.
Mm-hmm.
I have 10 of them, but I have a lot more records than that. But I'll bring one, I guess a year ago, I was still recovering from my stroke in March. I was in the second hospital, but a year before that, in March, beginning of March, I was DJing with all 45s at a club up the street, up the hill from the Coliseum in Rome. So I got a gig where I was doing a thing with Kaleo, that band Kaleo from Iceland, and he loves a lot of American, historical music. And I had all these 45s, so I was spinning. and spun everything in my box. Like I brought one box from LA to Italy to Germany to Italy, like because it was on the way over. And then I DJ'd and spun every single that I had in that box. But yeah, so that was my thing. I mean, there's a lot of people that remember me from DJing in clubs in college. Like I talked about, like you said, Tony Soprano, who was, and all those people used to come out.
Yeah, Matt, we want to hear a little bit more Bananarama. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, well, it's funny. Bananarama, right? Funboy 3, and you gotta give ain't what you do. It's this way that you do it, right? It was a great single. Doing that cover of that old standard,
Yeah.
It's and it was amazing because back then you weren't really. I mean, I wasn't. I was like, it's a British single. I'll check it out, and it was something like that was cool, like Terry Hall from the Specials, and I loved the color field of the Funboy 3 too. I mean, I liked all that shit.
So when you think of your record collection, are there a few records that have extreme sentimental value? Like maybe something an artist had given you or something that is just, it stands above the others?
There's quite a few. Well, what's wild? It's like my friend Chuck, who's, here is playing at Punk Rock Museum tonight, Chuck Roca, who's, he's got an album called Turmoil. But he bought me, because he loves Tom Petty, right? And I saw Petty, You're Gonna Get It tour. I was in high school. I was like, I had only the first Petty albums out. And I was telling everybody, you got to see this guy. You got to listen to this guy, Tom Petty. Nobody was playing it on the radio, certainly not New York radio. And I was obsessed with that first Petty album. And I was listening at that period. Still, I was into punk rock too. And you know what I mean? And because, I was already, it was like that same time when the Pistols came out and the Ramones and Richard Hell and the Voidoids and the Dead Boys. Young, Loud, and Snotty, one of my favorite punk records, from that period of time. I will never forget, those periods of time. So one of the things that's really cool is I had this one-sided album that was only released as a promotional thing, and I gave it to Chuck because he loves Tom Petty. And so what he got me, which was cool. He was on the road. He found this is your kind of people you share with them. So Chuck, I gave him the one-sided live Tom Petty thing called Official Live Leg. So he was on the road. You know that
Yeah,
record,
I do.
right?
I do, yep.
Because there's like this song Dog on the Run, which is totally different than the song that Petty released with the same title. It's like a different song completely. And it was, he did like Jaguar and Thunderbird on there and covers of Luna and a couple songs, Fooled Again from the first Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers album. And I remember, so I gave that to him. So what he found for me on the road? He found the actual metal plate acetate test pressings of the second Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. So he found, so that's one of my coveted things. It's like the actual, what they used to cut both sides of the second Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers album. That's something I love.
Oh, yeah.
The 7-inch of Looking Guy, I mentioned Gun Club before. I was just telling the story about you getting me the punk rock, get me to Tom Petty.
Oh
yeah, Tom Petty thing, and I did
the fucking
the acetates, which were like because they're metal in the middle, and it was like belonged to one of the band members, and they found it was so crazy, you know what I mean? It was like, but I love stuff like that, and certainly I love this single by the Cherry Slush, which was Dick Wagner from Hunter and Wagner, who were the guys who played on Lou Reed's Rock and Roll Animal, played with Alice Cooper. They were like the guys behind the curtain with Alice Cooper too. I mean, although I love Alice Cooper's original band, like Denny Dunaway, what an incredible bass player. Like I love that. I'm so glad they're like doing shit together.
Regrouped again, yeah.
Yeah, which made me so happy because I love all that old Alice Cooper stuff. Is so great. It's great music. But and I mentioned, so a friend, when I was in the beginning of the late end of the 70s, beginning of the 80s, when I started college and was doing college radio, I met a guy there who also collects, Dave Kapolsky, who does like a radio show, a streaming thing of he's really into 60s R&B and soul and also garage rock and stuff. And he turned me on to this record by the Cherry Slush, which it ended up on Nuggets too. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But it was so rare because USA Records, the record label that had the Buckinghams originally on it, kind of a drag, in like 67, the first Buckingham's hit was this band's song was climbing the chart, the Cherry Slush. And it's talk about a psychedelic artifact. It's incredible, this song. So good for like 68. And I remember, and like, it's just, man, I fell in love with it. And then I finally eventually found the 7-inch. And it went out of print so fast, it was climbing the Billboard singles charts, becoming a hit, was getting played in Chicago and Cleveland and Detroit. And then the company went out of business. USA Records folded while the song was going up the chart. Kind of like the way you hear the stories about the Castaways' Liar Liar. Like the record company ran out of money. The song was like top 3, and all of a sudden they couldn't print anymore. They didn't have any money to make
the
records
victim of their own success at that moment.
Victim of their own success, yeah. So with the Cherry Slush, I felt bad for those dudes because like that just. But yeah, so it was produced by by Wagner, who went on to play with Lou Reed and with Alice Cooper, and I turned Alice onto that single. I was working on a show, TV show with Alice. I go, Alice, have you ever heard this Cherry Slush? She goes, no. I go, dude, you're gonna fucking love this song. It's like Wagner before the Hunter Wagner combo, and he goes, dude. So he goes, I'm going to look. I'm going to look that up tonight because it does stream, but. At the end of the day, that 45 was like, I was dying to find it. And then I had to find another copy. I never had a 7-inch of Sex Beat by the Gun Club, which I loved. And so I found one because I would find a guy DJing out at like the bowling alley in LA. I'm like, dude, you have that on 7-inch? I got to find it. And it was a Biggest Banquet, because I have the Slash album from when it came out, and
do you pretty much buy your stuff out of music stores, or do you do Discogs or eBay at all?
I do some of Discogs and occasionally eBay, but I go to stores all the time. I still love bricks and mortar. I have a mental policy where I will buy records in any record store I walk into. I'll buy something. I just will do that. I feel a responsibility to buy something from every person who is trying to keep a record store alive. And I really do. And this is no bullshit. I will go in a record store somewhere. I'm like, I don't fucking need that record, but I just bought this thing. You know what I mean? Even if I already have it, because I'm just trying to help people.
I have that same thing. Like, I feel I've been blessed by this industry, and and I got a little bit of disposable income I can help these people with. I also do the same with opening bands. If an opening band has a record on the merch table, I'm like,
I do the same thing, or I'll buy a T-shirt from them, or both. Yeah. I will which of course, to the dismay of every relationship I've been in, the T-shirt collection is like insanity. But I like to support, so I'll buy the vinyl from the artist and opening bands, or I'll buy the single that they have, or a T-shirt, because every story of every band we know that. It's like sometimes that's all the money they had to eat on the way to the next gig or for gas. And so to me, that's the responsibility. So I feel the same way about bricks and mortar stores. Yes, I do use Discogs, especially during the pandemic, like I was just like going on there searching for stuff. But I also, anytime there's a record store in any town, I find it and buy shit. I just do. Like if I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and I'm working on like one of the Danny Wimmer Presents festivals, I'm like, I'll go, hey, I've got like 2 hours in the morning. Like I'm literally, when you and I are done here, I'm walking over to the record store because it's a block away, and I found great stuff in there before. Yeah. And I may just find something, even if I already have it, that I decide I want to play at the Tiki Bar on Sunday night. On Saturday night because I'm DJing night at 12.
Do you know Moondog in Las Vegas?
Yes, I got to go to that store today too.
Yeah,
but I might not have time today because I have the 2 tours. But I'll go like maybe Saturday morning or Sunday, like if they're open in the afternoon. I think they might even open at like 10. But yeah, I got to go to Moondog. I'm gonna hit them up because I love buying. To me, again, I feel like I owe that to anybody who's trying to keep a bricks and mortar store going.
Yeah, I want to be part of the solution. Right?
Yeah, same here. Absolutely. Because records have been everything to me my entire life. I love records, and I love music, and I love songs, and God, the experiences they've given me and the gift, like, I mean, look, I've made a living, I've may not make much money, but I love what I do. I mean, but it's afforded me to survive. And my love of music has carried me, I mean, Christ, I've been doing radio for 40 years professionally, even post college. And then the TV stuff I've done too. But I look and I go, this is all because of my love of music that has never stopped. And I've never lost the excitement. People, you can call it Arrested Development. I don't care what it is, but I never lose that thing that when I was a kid, a song or a record makes me feel something. When it does, it's like, that's still the greatest feeling in the world. It's one of the best things.
So look, and I know you got limited time, and I'd love to have you back on at some point. Before you go, I'm keen to get your thoughts on, you've been in this industry, you've had this incredible career, and again, I'm going to pump up your book, All These Things That I've Done. People can get it on, wherever you want right now. It's a fascinating book, and you'd go through records. Every page is another record. I'm making notes in this thing, right? But you've been in this industry. You started with vinyl. You've gone, cassettes, 8 tracks, CDs, streaming. You went through the Napster wars, everything. Now, we're kind of getting back to vinyl. What do you think will be happening 5, 10, 15 years from now? How do you think music's going to survive in the formats that people will be listening to?
Well, I hope that vinyl is one of them because I love vinyl. And I see more and more young people love the idea of having the actual physical connection to the vinyl, the cover, the artwork, that beautiful, that magical thing that when you were like me as a kid growing up, you looked at every credit on the record and you just were like, well, that guy Jack Douglas produced that Aerosmith album, but he also produced this new band, Cheap Trick. And then, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, so going through that, or Tony Visconti did this Bowie thing or whatever, and he's on T-Rex, but I just saw he did some new guy, Zane Griff or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I love that idea. And I just see more young people getting excited about vinyl. And that's always makes me so happy. I love to see, like I said, I just think there's something about that experience that can't be reproduced in streaming. I mean, listen, streaming is convenient. And I'm not, but I mean, as a guy who loved the radio and loved records and couldn't get enough records as a child, just couldn't afford them. But this was like when I could borrow a record for somebody or buy a record, man, it's just it was everything to me. And I never lost that passion. I do think people will continue to buy vinyl. Like, here's the funniest thing in the world. Like, I loved making mixed cassettes and mixed CDs even. Was never a big 8-track guy. I mean, I had a couple. I remember I had Black Sabbath Volume 4, and I had America Homecoming, their second album, or some, that were bought for me. But I was more vinyl, was still king, right, at that period of time. For me, because 8 tracks, of course, and then when you can make cassettes and you had them in your car, that was also fantastic. But it's funny when I look back at the pictures of people with turntables trying to play records in their cars.
Oh,
that is amazing. I'm just imagining, I probably bought at least one record somewhere that has needle burn from one of those turntables that were in the car. You stuck a 45 in or an album.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But no, I just I'm very grateful for all the joy and love that music has brought me and through that vinyl, because there's that warmth that is like no other thing. It's another world. For me as a child, that was it. It was this is the whole other world that's been opened up to me through this music, through these records. You know what I mean? And I dreamed and dreamed and dreamed of being able to be in that world as a kid. I wanted to see artists, I wanted to see them play. I wanted to hear the music. I wanted to talk to them. And that's one of the gifts, the beautiful things that came out of always having that dream, So I'm, and I just keep on going. And, hopefully I'll continue to recover from this stroke. Like I said, I still don't have full feeling on my right side. I don't, there are a lot of parts of my right side that are numb. But, man, I'm making the best of it. One day at a time, doing whatever I have to do. You know what I mean? Doing some acupuncture and shitloads of physical activity. What am I gonna do? I'm blessed enough, and I know there's a lot of other people out there that have struggled, and my heart is with them because it's a tough thing to recover from things like this. But for those people, I'm doing it for the other folks who can't, or those who've gone before me. So I want to be alive. But everything that I came out of that coma thinking about music, talking about music. It's exactly. I mean, we're like, his brain is still intact. He can tell you how A Whiter Shade of Pale connects to Guy Stevens, who produced London Calling. You know what I mean? And Mata Hoople. That's the kind of shit. You know what I mean? Like
he could name the first 10 singles on the Buddha label.
Yeah, right. It's like you can sit there and go through. So name some artists, Buddha artists. All the bubblegum stuff. And what was the B-side of Indian Giver? It was called Powwow, and it was like just the same song backwards. Like they just ran the tape backwards so they could keep the publishing money. You're just the crazy shit. But I still find records to be one of the most exciting and beautiful things and amazing gifts. I'm grateful that like I said, growing up as a kid with not having much money, but I found a way. So
that's
to get
beautiful.
Records,
that's beautiful,
so
man.
There we go. But Nate, it was so great connecting with you here.
Oh, you too. And I'm so happy to see you happy and up and about and doing your things.
Yeah.
And man, lots of energy and still connecting, all them synapses working. That's fantastic. Do you ever need anything from Australia? You let me know.
It's amazing. For years I would have, I would find in some stores singles by the Church and singles by, the early Church singles or the Hoodoo Gurus. You know what I mean? And there was and of course the Easy Beats. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And AC/DC for that matter. Love Bon Scott, and you know what I mean? But it's there's so much stuff down there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I bet there's a lot of 7-inches that I would probably have a blast. I mean, do you see much used 7-inches around there?
Yeah. You got to know
where.
Dude,
I would love to go through the 70s stuff there. You know what I mean? In 60s, 70s.
You know what I mean? I may put a little
80s.
I may put a little box together for you.
That'd
fun.
be amazing.
I said don some stuff every so often because there's a lot of junk shop glam down here.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
Yeah. So, okay.
Oh, my God. That would be amazing, Nate. And I could, anytime, and I'd be gladly reimburse you for anything you find for me. Let me know.
It's all good. I just like getting it out in the universe and,
It's beautiful.
Yeah. I go to record fairs and I'll have a box of records just to give to teenagers or youngsters or something. That's
so cool. That's the best.
Well, I get a lot of promo stuff. And so I'm not going to sell something that I got for free. And if I could pass it on and who knows, I like to think that, the butterfly effect is, happens.
Yeah, that's what, and I do believe it does because young people are getting more and more excited about records all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. Yeah. So, and I love that. I just think it's awesome. My friend just bought for his girlfriend's daughter a turntable, and she had already had some vinyl, and I was like, that's phenomenal. I just thought it was cool that she'd already put some records together. It's got to start somewhere. You know what I mean?
I love it when I have a conversation with a young person. I say, "You ever hear Van Halen?" No. Okay. Well, I'm excited for you because guess what?
Yes.
A whole world's going to open up for you now.
Oh my God. Yes. That's the thing that's incredible. I think back about all that. I tell a lot of stories on the radio too. So telling the story about, Angel and Legs Diamond, both hearing the acetate or the test pressing of the first Van Halen album at a party and then trying to beat Van Halen to releasing You Really Got Me as a single, which Eddie didn't want as a single anyway. He wanted Jamie's Crying. He was like, I wanted one of my originals, our originals. And, you can't blame him, right? Man, I got great Eddie stories, being at 5150 and hanging out with him, I got my friend engaged on stage at Madison Square Garden at a Van Halen concert, and Eddie and Michael Anthony pulled up his who became his fiance and dropped to his knees. His favorite band was Van Halen. I made him show Eddie and the van his homemade Van Halen tattoo from the Gulf War, and I'm like, dude, you got because he was in TV production. We were 5150 shooting, and And then like Eddie wanted me to come in and listen to some stuff he was mastering. And it was just so cool. Just meet him sitting there by ourselves in the studio. And we met everybody for dinner. And eventually the subject came up, and it was like of him, of them letting him get engaged at a Van Halen concert on stage. So sure enough, I went up there from the MTV summer house, got there just in time because of the traffic in Jersey and on the Jersey Turnpike and the Parkway, and finally got there, and then went on stage in between the set and the encore for Van Halen, and brought my friend on, and then like I said, the Van Halen guys pulled her on stage, and he dropped to his knees and proposed to her. It was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful moment. Like it's just so cool. But it's things like that, We get to do things that are connect people. But again, music connects everybody. It's a one universal thing that's beautiful that people they can certainly disagree over, but but at the same time, it's just like I've always been that thing. As long as you're passionate about some music, that makes me happy.
Yeah, and it's an opportunity to learn. Like you could hang out with people who know a lot. I mean, record people are my people, and hanging out with them and walking away with some recommendations. I always learn something new. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you never stop learning. That's the beauty. That's the beauty of being a music person and a record person. If you love vinyl, you love records, always find something cool that's new. Yeah. Like we were talking about that Cherry Slush single. Like I love that. And it's so like it was so beat up. It's so beat up, and I still paid a good amount of money for it because I love the song, and it just cuts through, Uh-huh. But you and I can talk so long, Nate. But we'll do it again, Matt. But again, you're going to be connecting with people at the Punk Rock Museum. Links will be in this episode page. You got two
a day,
tours
right?
a day. Some of them are selling out, so I want to encourage people to get up there quick. You've also got something coming up tomorrow night.
Yes, I'm going to be DJ. Tonight. I'm performing. I'm singing punk rock songs. It's Matt Pinfield and friends, some of my friends from Vegas and LA, and I'm going to do some punk songs, and then my friend Chuck Roca, he's playing with his band that summer tonight, and then tomorrow night I'm DJing at the Tiki Bar, you know what I mean, in Vegas, and playing 45s. Oh. So with my friend Eric, so that'd be cool. That's why I'm going to go around the corner when you and I are done and see what 45s you can find. Always on the hunt for records.
Exactly. There's nothing. There's nothing that beats that.
That's my favorite thing to do.
100%. My wife is like, "Hey, you want to do a beach holiday?" It's like, "Oh, maybe we can go to Utrecht. There's a good record.
There's a record store. Yeah. That's great. You sound like you are a man of my own heart. I love it. It's great, Nate.
All right, Matt.
This is a pleasure.
No, I was going to say, enjoy yourself in Las Vegas. And
I'm so psyched for these Punk Rock Museum tours. I have so much fun. It's really great to connect with people, talk about these records, and how I discovered the Ramones and all the other things, and then the history behind some of those stories. So it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and I'm going to put a link to your book in this episode page as well if anyone wants to read more. Fascinating book.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate it so much, Nate. I really do. That's kind of you, So listen, have a great rest of your day, but thank you for having me on.
All good.
You're
welcome back anytime, man. And
we got to do it again.
I'll text you, and we'll figure out how to get how to do the Australian U.S. record exchange.
Let's do it 100%. Okay. I love that. All right, Nate. Take care.
You too, man.
Thanks so much for having me.
All good.
All right. Bye now.
Oh, yeah, we are definitely going to be doing a part 2 of this one, maybe a part 3 and 4 as well. And again, if you're anywhere near the Punk Rock Museum, anywhere near Las Vegas, Nevada, August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, try to catch Matt and the guided tours there. It's such a great place to be, and I can't wait to get back there myself. I think I'll be there end of November, early December. Still kind of figuring out dates. So again, big weekend at the Punk Rock Museum, so go over there and help them celebrate. And that's it for this episode of The Vinyl Guide. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks to everyone who's sharing these episodes on social media, putting them in Reddit forums and Facebook groups. And of course, those of you who are leaving positive reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, well, that is super appreciated as well. We'll be back shortly with a brand new episode. So until next time, you guys behave yourselves. And thanks again for listening to The Vinyl Guide podcast. Cheers.